All right. Good day. Welcome to Salentry Education Channel. Everybody, thank you for joining us today. Today, we are going to focus on Database-Prelim 2025. That is Western Cape and the Limpopo provinces. Now, if you have joined us and then you have not subscribed to the channel, please do so. And then let the channel grow. Right. I'm going to start with the Western Cape. But before that, yesterday, when I was solving the one question regarding database for Mpumalanga, there was one particular question that talks about arranging the forms. And today I'm going to take that opportunity and then address that part. I will always make sure in Salentry Education, every question must be solved. Any question that we cannot solve, we have to solve it. So I'll start with that one before I come back. So that's Mpumalanga question paper. And that was the forms. And then you were asked to arrange header, in the heading, All right, welcome back. Sorry for the interruption. I got some issues regarding the network. So let me know if you can see my screen right now. All right, welcome back. Sorry for the interruption. I got some issues regarding the network. Right. I think I was just testing it. I think everybody can see my screen right now. I got a problem with a network. All right. Thank you so much. There was a problem with the network, so everything just went offline. Thank you so much for staying with me. Right. Like I said earlier on, before we move straight to today's lesson, or Western Cape and the Limpopo questions, I want us to go through what happened yesterday regarding the form. Now, so this form, you insert the form, and then the image was inserted, like I said earlier, and then you go to the picture or the property sheet, you will find the size mode, and then you change it to stretch so that it will fill in. And the question says both the width and then the height should be 2 centimeters. So the width should be 2 centimeters, and then the height must also be 2 centimeters. So that was the first question. Then the second question says, change the heading in the form header to fundraising. So you go to the form header, which says FRM5_2. Then you type fundraising. Then the next question, change the background color of the form header to blue. So this is the form header, and this is the details section. Now they want you to change the background color of this header to blue. So you right click in the header, and then you see fill or back color, then you choose blue. And then the next question, when the form is viewed in the total view, an error message is displayed in the text box under the heading total amount raised by all learners. Make the necessary corrections. So now this question here says, when you go and view it, it's giving an error message. So meaning there was a calculation that had some error. So we have to correct it. And I look at the calculation here. It says count of the total. But now there's a field called total, which we don't see any field here called total. So that should be the error, the first one. And then the second one is, what we have here is the total raise. Now, if you have the total raise, you can't say counting the total raise. Maybe they wanted you to, because it says total amount raised by all learners. So meaning they wanted you to sum all the total amount raised. So what you do here is you right click on the text box, build event, and then you go and double click on expression builder. So you can change it there, or you can also change it here. Or alternatively, you can just change them here. This total should have been total raised, and then the count should be sum. So it should be sum function, and then the field should be total raised. So now there's no error. Then again, it says it must display as currency. So we have to change the format to currency. You right click and see properties, and then the format should be changed from standard into currency. So that should be the right way of solving that question. All right. Someone says, I should zoom the screen? Right, I'm going to zoom in the screen. But check for me if you can see the screen first, because some people are also sending messages saying that the screen is a bit small. So let me just stretch it. Right. And then I must also increase these font sizes so that it can be a bit visible. I will change them. Right. Now, the last part, this last question here, that says, um, change the layout of the details section of the form to stack. So we want the layout to be changed to stack. Now, this is what you needed to do. There are several ways of doing that. You need to select these things here. You can just go to Control A and select them, which is going to select everything. But then you must hold down the Shift key to remove the picture. We don't need to select the picture and then the title. Or you can just hold down the Control and be clicking on each of the items. But I think the best one should have been Control A. So when you select them, then you go to Arrange. Arrange, that is where you see stack layout. And then for the arrange, you can even remove the original layout here and change it to another layout. We have other things here, like the control margins. If you want to narrow, you must watch out for some of these things. And then also alignment, whether to the top or to the left, you change them here. Then what is important here for this question should be stacked. So you select stack so that they will be all together. We also have tabular if you want them to be in a tabular form. So this is what the question wanted us to do yesterday. Right. So basically you select them and then you go to arrange and then you will see stack. So I needed to correct this part. Right. So that is all about the question for yesterday in Pumalanga. Now let's go straight to the next question, which is the one for Western Cape. So we are going to the Western Cape question paper. So Western Cape question 5, which is 5 accommodation. And it says, edit the TBL5_1 table as follows. Adjust the field size of the promo code field to accommodate values no longer than 14 digits. Now, we have to right click on TBL5_1 and then you'll find design view. Then the question says we should adjust the field size of the promo code to 14. So you click on promo code and then the field size, you change it to 14. The next question, change the data type of the price field to a more appropriate data type. You know, price deals with currency. So we have to change it from short text to currency. We click on the price and then the short text must be changed to currency. The next question, every trip is identified by a unique trip code. Edit the trip code input mask field property so that the code consists of the following: 2 capital letters followed by at least 2 but possibly 4 digits. Now, this question is repeating in other provinces. So I just want to explain them properly in Microsoft Word. I want to type them and then I will explain to you. Now, this is the question. When it says 2 capital letters, we know that 2 capital letters is what? L. So 2L. And then because of the word capital, capital means uppercase. So you put greater than. So greater than 2L. And then it says followed by at least 2. At least 2, but possibly 4 digits. Anytime you say but possibly, that means that it is optional. So at least 2, that means 2 digits are compulsory. So it's 2 zeros, but possibly 4 digits. That means the other 2 are optional digits. Now, in most cases, you get learners getting confused because they say this is 2 and this is 4. So they'll put 2 zeros and 4 9. That is wrong. but possibly that means it can go up to 4 digits, but then the first two is compulsory and then the other two is optional. So that is how it's supposed to be. So we have to go straight to the input mask for the trip code. So we click on the trip code and input mask 2L is already there. So we put greater than and then 20 and 29. So that should be the input mask. Then question 5.1.4. In the service level field, the capturer must be able to select a service level from a list. So like here, anytime you see list or select, that means that you have to use lookup wizard or you can use combo box. Now, change the properties of the service field so that it displays values from the service level table. So this is the service field. Now we can do that in two ways. If you are taking from a table, you can just go to lookup, change the display control to combo box. And then the row source type should be table because the question says we are taking from a table. Then the row source, you select the name of the table, which is the service level. And then when you go to the other view, you will see that the service level has the options given to you. Right, you could have also achieved the same results by using the lookup wizard, then you pick the values. And that is the long way. So anytime you are taking from a table, just use this short way. You'll be able to get your answers within the very short time. Now 5.1.5. Validation text has been inserted for the minimum age requirement. So there was a validation text inserted here. Now they want you to put the rule that matches the text. And then the text says a traveler must be 18 years and older. Now 18 years and older, that means it starts from 18 years. So you can say greater than 17. Or you can say greater or equals to 18. And that's 18 years or older. So we go there and put greater than 17. Or you can also say greater or equals to 18. Right, that's all about the table. Now let's move straight to the forms. A form has been created and they want you to do the following for 7 marks. The first one is to insert the logo. Second one is conditional formatting. Third one is action button. So you need to put action buttons, conditional formatting, and then insert logo also. Let me check again if everything is fine. If there's a comment, don't forget to put a comment there. Right. So we open the form. You right click and choose design view. Now, when you open it in design view, 5 logo must be in the header. So you click on the header, insert image, you browse for that image. So here, I'm going to select from Western Cape 5 logo. And then you draw it in the header. Now, they didn't ask for the height or the width. They just say insert it. Now, use conditional formatting on the nightly cost field to fill the background accommodation costing less than 2,000. So the accommodation must be less than 2,000 with a light green shading. Now, we have to go to the nightly cost. Please do not select the label. The label is the one on the left-hand side. So here you select the field, which is the one on the right hand side. And then when you select it, conditional formatting, you get it under format. Now, like I always say, if you don't know where to find it, you can go to tell me what to do, and then you start typing conditional formatting. Now, then you go to new rule, and the question says when it's less than what? 2000. So the field value is less than 2000. And then you must fill it. This is the fill, not changing the font color. So you must take note. We have the fill, background fill or shading, and the font color. So here we choose the fill with apply. Now, when we go back to the form view, anytime you click on next, so all of them that are less than 2000 will be shaded in green. Right. So that is how conditional formatting is done in database. Now, the last question, insert a command button in the footer section to close the form. So this is called the action button. Now you can see that the footer section is not open for you. So you have to adjust it and then you open it. And then you go to action button, which can be found from controls. Then you go to action button. This is the one. Then you draw it. Now it's going to give you different categories of the actions. We have the record navigation, which involves find record, find next, and others. And then we have the record operations like deleting record, saving record. So it's not there. Now this question says exit form. So meaning it should be form operations. So exit form is part of the closed form. Next. Now it is not a picture, as you can see here. They type the text exit form on it. So we have to select the first option. And where it says command 12, then you type exit form. Let's go back and change this one to also exit form. And then you finish. So you can see exit form here. Now let's go to the form view. The moment I click on this one, it's going to ask you to save it to exit the form. So that's action button. There are so many different categories of action buttons. Right. Then we move on to question 5.3. Create a query called QRY5_3 based on the accommodation table to display all the hotel names. Like I always say, highlight the keywords. Here they are talking about hotel names with rooms that can accommodate 12 people, more than 12 people. So let's create it. We go to create query design. And the question says it should be based on accommodation table. So you look for the table and then you double click on accommodation. Then they didn't tell us the field that we must display, but then one particular field must be there, which is the number of people that it can accommodate. So we can take accommodation name. That is why we can get it. The types, accommodation type, and then also I think room capacity. Then let's run it and see. So we can see different accommodation names, types are hotel and guest houses and B&B. And then we also have the room capacity. So you can see here that this question says all hotel. That means the criteria for the type should be hotel, and the room capacity should be more than 2, which is greater than 2. Then again, right? So we need only the hotels, and then we need here that is more than 2. And that's what the question wanted us to do. So we have to be very careful. They didn't talk about B&B, they said only hotel. So we go to design view, and then the type, we can just say hotel in full or star, HO star. Hotel begins with HO. And then the room capacity, we just say greater than 2. Now, if we say HO star, look at it. It's giving us also guest house, which contains HO. So we can separate it by using the 3 words star, HOT star. It's better you put the first 3 letters, and then you place them before and after asterisks. So that one will reduce us or to take out the guest house from it. Right. So that then you go to save, and then you can give it the name that you want to give. Now we move on to 5.4. The query has already been created for you. Now they are saying that we must do calculations here. The calculation should be called deposit, and then is the nightly cost amount paid per night per room. Now, a 50% deposit of the total amount for 7 days is required. So now we have to do this calculation. That is nightly cost times the 7 days. So 1 day is times 1. So for the 7 days, will be multiplied by 7. And then also for the 50%, that means times half, which is 0.5. So this one is going to be the nightly cost times 7 times half. That's how it's supposed to be. Now let's do this calculation. And then it should also only show B&B, not any other type. So you open it in design view. You right click on an empty space, and then you choose build. Now you double click on the nightly cost times 7 times 1 divided by 2, which is half, 50%. Or you can say times 50 divided by 100. 50% is 50 over 100. So times 7 times 50 divided by 100. Then okay. Now when you run it, we get the answer correct, but then it's giving us EXPR1. It's giving us EXPR1 instead of deposit. So we have to go back and change it. You delete the EXPR1, and then you type deposit. There we go. So this should be the right answer. Now, they didn't ask us to round it to any decimal place, so we leave it as it is for 5 marks. Now we move on to 5.5. Open the query 5.5, and then you do the following. Modify the query to display the average price per accommodation type. Now, like I always say, whenever you see per or by or group, then it means according to, that is the aggregate function. So when you see this one is aggregate function, so take note of that. And the aggregate function, we see it as totals. You see the symbol, summation symbol. Now, that's 5.5 in design view. So whenever you see that, you activate the totals. Now, where the group by is for the nightly cost, you change it to average. So we have the average nightly cost for each and every guest house. Right. The other one I forgot, the 5.4, I forgot to do something about it. They wanted only B and B, like from the screenshot. So I forgot to add it. So the type should be B and B. So you can say star B star or B and B. You can type B and B as one. Now you see maybe the way I type the B and B, so you must always check there was a space and there shouldn't be space. So you can say B. You must always check how they type it. It's B and B. Yeah, one word. So B and B. It keeps on separating. Or you can say B star. That means start with B. B star. So if you give him problem, so like this one here, it's separating B from the other B. So you can say B star. That means it starts with letter B. Right. So that is all about that question. And then 5.5 also. Now let's move straight to the next question. But before that, let me check from the comment section if there's any comment. If there's no comment, I will proceed. Right. The next question is talking about the report. And a report was created. This one, there are two reports created. Open the report based on the table accommodation in design view. And we must do it to be like that. So let's look at what was done. And they say insert a field cost PP and calculate the night per cost. So the cost PP was not there. So this is the calculated one. And then also adjust the layout to landscape. That means it should be landscape. So now we open this in design view. So when you open, you choose design view. Now, how are we going to see the type of whether it is in portrait or that? So you see when you go there, you can see that it's portrait. So you can check it also there, the other view, or you can also choose it in the layout view and see, or you can also pick it in the print preview. This is the print preview. You can see that it is in portrait. Now the best view for you to see is the print preview because here you don't find them. Design view, you don't find it. But then when you go to view and then you choose print preview, you see them. Margins, they can even ask you to change the margins or the size, or they can ask you to change the setup or 2 pages. So here we change it to layout. So that's how we change a report from one orientation to another orientation. Then after that, you go back to design view. Now, the question says we have to add another one, which is the cost PP. So now, because it's a field, we have to make use of, we can just open a little space. We have to make use of the text box. You click on the text box and then you come and draw it here. So now this label must be on top. Now, if it's giving problem like yesterday, you delete the label, you put it back. And then you go and click on the label, then you draw it on top. and say cost PP. And then where it says unbound, that's where you're going to do the calculation. So you right click and choose build event, expression builder. Sorry, I chose wrong one. Right click, build event, expression builder. Now you are going to do some calculations here. The question says the nightly cost per person. The nightly cost per person. So now the nightly cost is given to you, so you double click on it. And then we have, let's check whether they gave some preambles. Just the nightly cost per person. So let's check what field there. We have room capacity. And then the nightly cost is given to us an accommodation type. We have attraction 1, other amenities. So the nightly cost per person, we need to do some division. This is the total nightly cost. Now for one person, we have to know which one are we dividing by. I don't know whether it's the room capacity. So divide by room capacity. Because that is the only. So the nightly cost per person will be that. Now you see that we don't find it here. Just like the form, you won't find them here. You must go and copy and paste here. So you right click, build event, you select Control C, you click OK. Come to where it says unbound, Control V to paste. So now we have all the nightly cost per person. Let's see whether it was the right one. Yeah, 1,006, meaning that they divided the nightly cost by the room capacity. So that should be how it should be done for this particular report. Now, the next one, create a report called RPT5_7. So here we need to create it. So we go to create report wizard. And then it says, group the records based on the nightly cost and set the grouping interval to 1,000. So here they didn't tell us which field should be displayed. So we can choose any field. So we select all of them. And then, because the question we must group by nightly cost, so you double click on nightly cost. When it says, do you want to add any grouping? Then you go to next. So here it should have given us the grouping option. When we add the nightly cost per person, you will see down here, you say grouping options. You go to grouping options, and now look here, it says the grouping interval to thousands. And then you are going to find the grouping level interval. Then the grouping level interval, you choose thousands here. And then okay. Then you go to next. They didn't ask us to sort. Next. And there's no calculation also there. So we finish. So basically it's going to group them according to thousands from 0 to 1,000. Then it will pick 1,000 to 2,000. It will also pick like that. So that will be the nightly cost per person. Right. So basically, that's how we do the grouping, we do the report, and then the database. So any question before I proceed to the next province? Right. It seems there's no question. So I'm going to proceed to the next province. Right. Now, the next province will be Limpopo. That will be the last province for database. Then within the week, I will announce when we are going to start with the Microsoft Word question for all the provinces also. All the videos are also available for us. You can get access to them, practice them, you watch where you get stuck, watch over it, and then you do. The more you practice, the more you become perfect or nearly perfect. And then I want every learner to pass practical and say, because I followed sedentary education, I managed to pass database. Now let's move straight to the next province, which is Limpopo, the last one. So question 5 for Limpopo. Um, right. The table name or the database name, and then they didn't mention the database name, but I think we can get it. It's supposed to be 5 Racing. The database name is 5 Racing. And then the first question. The first question says, change the format of the car make field to so that the text displays in capital letters. And we are dealing with TBL. We are dealing with TBL reg. So you right click and then choose design view. Now the question says we should change the format of the car make to display in capital letters. So you go to car make, the format capital letters, meaning you put greater than. So when you put greater than inside the format, it will change to uppercase. So let's go back and check. There we go. So the car make will all be turned to uppercase. When you put less than, it changes to lowercase. So take note of that. The next question, create an input mask on the registration code field to ensure that the user insert a painting ID in the following format. First of all, the letter WCR should be there. So you must put WCR followed by any compulsory character or space. Now we have to check compulsory character, any character. What do we use to represent? Followed by a compulsory number in the range of 0 to 9, and then followed by 2 optional. Now let's go and check from the input mark sheet. You must always refer. Any character or space will use this symbol. N. And then any character or space that's optional, we use C. If it is a letter or digit, we use A. And a letter or digit that is lowercase, we use small a. If it is a compulsory letter, we use L. And if it is optional letter, we use question mark. And if it is digit only compulsory, we use 0. Digit that is optional, which does not include plus and minus, we use 9. And the digit that includes plus and minus, which is optional, we use hashtag. So take note, this 3 is for digits, this is for letters, this is for letter or digit, and any character. And these ones are for uppercase and then the lowercase. Right, so take note. And this one is literary character when you use the forward slash. So you must know this. Now, we go back to our question, and the question says, first of all, WCR. So we need to type WCR. So this is how it's supposed to be. I'm going to type it here before. It's supposed to be WCR in inverted comma, followed by compulsory character or space, which is this symbol, Shift and 7, followed by compulsory number, which is 0, and then 2 optional numbers, which is 2, 9. So this should be the input mask that answers this question. So this should be the input mask for the registration code. So you click on the registration code and then you put it under the input mask. Right. The next question. Say edit the properties of the registration date as follows. Change it to short date and then the field accept date in 2024 format. And then insert an appropriate validation text. So here we need to change it to short date. I don't know whether I have skipped a question. You must tell me. I believe I have not skipped any question. Right. So you must change it to short date. Let's go to registration date. This one. And then you change the format from long date to short date. You click on the drop-down arrow and then you choose short date. Then the next one says the field accept date in 2024 only. So this field will only accept date in 2024. That means we have to put validation rule. So only 2024. So we can use between. Remember, 2024 only. The dates are between the first date, which is 01/01/2024, and 31st December 2024. So when they ask you in only one particular date or a month, then you must use between the start date, that's the beginning of the date for the year, and then the end date, the last date. So you have to put it as validation rule. So between space 01/01/2024 space and 31st December 2024. Now, the moment you click on the validation text, it's going to come along with the hashtag. So take note, you don't need to put the hashtag there in the examination. It will be there automatically. And then the validation text, because it's starting from 1st January, so you can say date should be only. Remember, you have to always refer to the field name. So you can say here, registration date from or only from 1st of January 2024 up to 31st December 2024. Or you can say that the registration date should only be for 2024 date. You can just make it simple like that. Right. Now we move straight to the next question. Change the TBL rec table to datasheet view. So you go to datasheet view. And then it says, ensure that the race name field displays in the datasheet view. So the race name is not displaying. So they want us to display it. In other words, they are hidden. So they want us to unhide. So you can right click and choose unhide field. You can right click anywhere. You just say unhide field. And then you can see that the race name is untick. So, or unchecked. So you must check it and then it will be there. Right. So that is how the question wanted us to do. Now, the next question. Insert a BMW, 5 BMW image there. Now we have to insert the image here. So you right click and choose insert object. And then you click on create from file, you browse it. Then you go and select that image. That is 5 image. No, not Western Cape. It's supposed to be Limpopo. 5 BMW, then okay. So you will see it here as package. By default, you will see it as package. You will see it as package. That means it's an image, this one. And it will only display when you create a form. So if like this form was based on it, you're going to see that. But it wasn't based on that. Right. Now let's move straight to the next question. Open the form FRM5_2, which is based on TBL registration table. Edit the image properties in the header so that it remains visible. So like I said earlier, the image is not, remember it's supposed to be here, but it doesn't show. So now we have to open it in design view, and then, they are talking about the image in the header. So when you click on this image, you right click and choose properties. And then you see the visible, you say yes. So that now the image will be displayed. Now, I think the question was only referring to the image in the header. Yes, the image in the header. Right. And it says it must be able to stretch to fill the image box. So this image here must stretch to fill the image box. You click on it, still under properties, you see size mode, you change it to zoom, or from zoom to stretch, so that it will fill inside the box. Remember images, they can ask you to put even border and others. Watch out for them. All of them from property sheet. Right. Then the next question. Set the data source of the country field combo box to TBL table. So a combo box was added, but then it doesn't have. So this is the combo box for the country. Then you go to data from the properties. If it is not there, you can again right click and choose properties. Then go to data. Then where it says row source, you change it to the table TBL countries. I think that's what the question is referring to. The data is in TBL countries. So here they didn't change to the table source. So the row source, you choose TBL countries. And then the next question, add a button to the form footer section to close the form when click. So this is similar to the one that we did for the Western Cape. So you open up the form footer. This is the button control, and you draw it. And then they said to close the form. So we choose form operations and then close form. We can just click on this and say close form, and then we finish, so that there will be close form written on it. Right. Then the next question, I think that's all about forms. We move straight to the query 5.3. Modify the query so that it displays the total number of American drivers. So here we are looking for the total number of American drivers. So you modify 5.3. Now we are looking for American drivers. We are looking for American drivers. So now run it again and see. Where do we see American drivers? It's under the nationality. You can see that they are under nationality. Right. So the nationality, we put star AME star because Americans start with AME. So I put a star before and star after. So it should be, you can write America in full or you can say star AME star. Like I always say, I'm always preaching about this. Use the asterisk before and after and pick the first three. When you stick to this formula, always you can be able to do queries, any query that comes on your way. Now, let's run and see. It shows only America. Now the question said the total number. So we have to activate the totals from the datasheet view. You will not get it from here. Now you get it from this side here. And then you activate the totals, then it gives you 9. That's the total row. Right. 5.4. Open the query 5.4 based on the TBL drivers. Create a list of German and Australia drivers. So 5.4. So the nationality should be German. So you see B star GER star. And Australia will be, you go to all star AUS star. So it's giving us Australia and then German only. Now, again, this question says, who started participating in car racing? So where do you see the car racing? That means all of them are car racing, so it's fine. When did they start? Who started before 2020 or from 2020 till now? So now, first race, before 2020, you say less than 2020. Or, so Australia should be also less than 2020. Or, you put all there. After, because the question says less than 2020, that's, oh no, before 2010 or from 2020. So before 2010. So here should be less than 2010. Or, you separate with or. After 2020, so it should be greater than 2020. And then again, here you do the same, less than 2010 or greater than 2020. There we go. So you got Australia and Germany, and then you put the two criteria, less than 2010 or greater than 2020. So these are the criteria that the question wanted us to do. Right. And then the team field must not display. So we don't want to display the team field. So you must uncheck this so that we can have only 3 fields. Right, we move straight to 5.5, and this is aggregate function. This one, they gave you a screenshot, sum of supporters and nationality. So it is called aggregate function. So you open 5.5. It means the first one should be nationality. That's the first column. So the first column should be nationality. The second one should be supporters, because it says sum of supporters. And then there's no third one. So you can delete this part or you can uncheck it. Now, to get this sum of, you activate totals and the group by, you change it to sum. So you're going to get sum of, and it starts from America, so you must check. But here start from Australian. It starts from Australian. So you see Australian first, Spanish second. That means they didn't sort here. they sorted here from the highest to the smallest. So you must always check all of them. So you must go back and sort under the supporters, the sorting, you say descending order, so that you can have the highest value up until the smallest value. So that should be how you approach this question also. Right, now let's move on to the next question, which is the last question for database. Open the RPT5_6 and then change the report heading to WCR drivers. So you right click and choose design view. The heading should be the WCR drivers. And then add a function in the nationality footer. So because they said nationality footer, that means they must be grouped according to nationality. To calculate the average number of points for each country, add a suitable label. So meaning here, we must add the grouping, and you don't see any grouping here. So you can use tell me what to do and say group and sort, and then it's already group and nationality. Then you go to more, and then with no totals. According to the question, it must be average. You say average number of points. So with no totals, you select, and totals on should be the point. Then the function should be average. And then it should be point. The function should be average. And then you take group footer, so that the function should be in group footer. Now, when you go to nationality, you see average points. Now, the question says add a suitable label. So you click on the label, which is A, small a, and then you type average, now average points per country. So this should be the field and then the calculation. Now, they didn't tell us to round it. Sometimes they can give you a question to also round it. Either you use the round function or you use formatting using round. Right, so that's all about database. You can see all the provinces question that we did. Database is similar, it's consistent, the same type of questions. So I believe from now you should be able to get all the 35 out of 35 marks, and that's the easier it is easier to also achieve that. Right, so let me check if there's no comment. If there are no comment, I'll end here, and then I'll communicate in our various groups when I'm going to start with the Microsoft Word. Probably we will start on Thursday, and then maybe by weekend we should be able to finish Word. Then you have access to different question papers, which I will also, before you write the final, I will be available to also assist you. We'll have theory lessons also before the write final theory, and then practical lessons also to assist every learner to pass. Don't forget to also add in, you can send me any message if you need any assistance regarding practical or theory. Thank you for your precious time. Good night.